Hi, goalies, goalie parents, and goalie coaches. Welcome to the Goalie Podcast. I'm joined today with my sidekick, John Carratu. We've been doing this for how long, John?
Together 15, 20 years plus, and it's been a great ride we've had together.
It's amazing. And John Carratu, if you're not familiar with John's background and experience, and John was a goalie coach at Northeastern University, a goalie coach at Merrimack College, a goalie coach at Boston College, a former goalie at Plymouth State.
Yes.
Done a ton of mass hockey, USA hockey stuff, trying to help with the selection process of goalies here. And if you're not familiar with me, I'm Brian DeCourt. I'm a former goaltending coach for the Boston Bruins, scout for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and director of goaltending for the now defunct Arizona Coyotes. And we're thrilled to have you on, John. It's been a while. You've been out now for almost 2 years. Okay, so you've had your hip issues, and you've fought and battled back from those hip issues, and you've had a lot of time to think and a lot of hockey to watch. And I'm really curious to see what you've noticed in goaltending over the last 2 years from your backseat view.
Well, the first thing I want to say is, before we get to the goaltending specifically, I don't think the game of hockey's ever been in a better position than it is right now. I mean, you look at the last year, all the stuff that's happened. That Stanley Cup final last year, Edmonton almost coming back in 7 games. That was so exciting. Then right across the board there, the women had their pro league start, and the Walter Cup was a very exciting game. Ovi's chase for Gretzky, everything. Then you can't say enough about the Four Nations Cup. I mean, what an experience that was for the hockey fan, and especially with those that are just kind of casual views be brought into that. I mean, I don't think hockey's ever been in a better position than it is. And now we got the playoffs coming up, and everybody knows the Stanley Cup playoffs are the best playoffs in all of sports. So I just think hockey's in a tremendous position, and to watch it grow the way it is, and again, being sidelined for 2 years, being able to see all these events take place, I'm just so happy for the sport of hockey.
I agree. I can't imagine it being better. The players are so much better. I think, remember how the goalies went from, geez, you were top 10 with a 3.5 goals against average to where they got to. And then I feel that the players have made a similar jump.
I agree. You can see them scoring from angles they've never scored at before. I think the speed, I mean, they're able to go full speed to the net longer and drive hard than they ever have. The shots, obviously the technology with the sticks have helped, but the players themselves, I mean, they're doing the same thing we've been doing traditionally. They're now going to skating coaches, shooting coaches, and they're up their game. And the best part about what we do is it's a cat and mouse game. They improve, we improve. They do something, we create a new technique, and that's what makes the position so much fun. It's never boring. It's always evolving. That's what makes it so great.
You know, I see it at BU. I'll go back to the days when I was coaching at Merrimack College, and to see what practices look like now, and the emphasis on skill development. I mean, there are days that I'll go to BU and it's just station work. It's like a hockey camp as opposed to a team practice. And there's such an emphasis on skills and bringing in skill development guys. It's like what we did with goalies when we start off, and I started this company 25 years ago. And, you know, when you used to get private lessons, people would look at you like you had 3 heads. What do you mean? You're going to get lessons in hockey, you're not just going to practice? Yeah, I'm going to training. And I think the players have caught on, and their skill level is tremendous.
I think the coaches finally figured it out too, that you can train all summer, but if you don't keep the skills sharpened during the year, they're going to lose an edge. And I give credit to the coaches for recognizing how important that is for the whole team. So again, that's improved the whole level of hockey everywhere. And going back to what we're saying, what have I noticed with the game? I've noticed how much better the game's gotten at all levels. The hockey, I just watched the college hockey that just finished up. That was almost pro level hockey. I mean, the speed that was played there, the skill, the systems, everything they did, it was just at such a high speed. I don't think that was there in the game 5 years ago. It's the game has grown so much, and the skill has developed so much.
Well, in our game as a goalie coach at Boston University, when we played in Western Michigan in the final, I think there were over 20 NHL draft picks in that game. In that one game alone, there are 20 NHL draft picks.
See, that's amazing, and it shows you how far college hockey itself has come to have that many. Two teams have that many players of that high quality in one game being played.
Do you think that we've tapered off or leveled off as goalies, or do you think that we've continued to get better, but the players continue to get better? Like, where do you think that cat and mouse game is right now?
It's funny. One of the notes I had written down was I talked about how the goalies are developing their own styles. Connor Hellebuyck doesn't play the same way as Vasilevsky does. He doesn't play the same way as Joey Daccord does. He doesn't play the same way as UC Saros plays. The good goalies are figuring out their natural athletic ability, their skating ability, that one thing that separates them, and they're building on that. I almost like when we were playing in the 70s and 80s growing up, all the goalies had a similar base, but they all had a little style that made them different. I think that's what you're seeing at the NHL level. I think it's fun because you used to read the last 5 years ago, every goalie looks the same. They're all cookie cutter. They're all doing the same thing. Not now. Everybody's developed their own game based upon their size, their skating ability, their athletic ability. And if you're really watching goaltending, it's a lot of fun to put on a game because you're going to see completely different goalies making different save selections, different movements. I think it makes it so much fun to just put on any game to watch.
And I think we've gotten away from just the 6'3" guys. Now we've got some guys that are 5'11", 6 feet that are doing great in the NHL, and they play a certain way. And Wedgwood doesn't play like Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck, his mantra is big and boring. That is not Scott Wedgwood, right?
And that's what makes it so much fun. You're seeing that individuality of the goaltender come through, and that's what made it so much fun watching. When I was a kid, I think you're seeing a lot more in the NHL. And again, you're seeing certain goalies that have certain skills. Like I'll go back. Like Joey Daccord is arguably the best puck handler in the NHL right now. And you want to watch a game, you just have fun going. I hope they dump it in. I hope they dump it. I want to see what he's going to do with it. I want to see what he's going to do with it. And then like if I'm watching Nashville play, I want to see what Soros can do because the style he plays, he's so down low, he's so dynamic with his movements. I want to see what he can do. I watch a game, and I want to say, you notice the strength of a goaltender. I said, I want to see this guy do this over and over and over.
So, all right, now we talk about the strength of goaltending, and I was listening to the In Goal podcast, which we're involved with the app and everything, and the Stop It Goaltending U app. If you get the Stop It Goaltending U app, you also get the premium In Goal magazine. So I'm listening to the podcast. I think it was last week.
Hey, Dak, if I can interrupt for 1 second. Yeah. Those guys are fantastic.
They're awesome.
I had a lot of time on my hands recuperating, and to listen to their stuff, it covers everything: equipment, sports psych,
parents,
goalie interviews, parents information. It covers everything. And the best part, if you want to listen to 15 minutes of it one time, you can come back to it. And I was surprised at how much I learned. It kept me in the game. The goalie interviews and stuff, you felt like you were still part of the game, even though I was sidelined for 2 years. So I can't say enough about that. That's just a tremendous add-on. Anybody who doesn't have that, go out and get it.
Well, for me, it's selfish when, if you want to be a goalie, how can you not listen to the podcast or watch the pro reads from In Goal? And that's why we packaged it in with Stop It Goaltending U. We just believe that we bring so much value to technical training and helping goalies get better. But we were like, we didn't want to compete with them. We want to make sure that we want to make goalies better. We just feel so strongly about In Goal that we got to package it in with our app as well.
Oh, I think I love the goalie interviews. I'm listening to Devin Cooley 1 week, who's rising star, played some games last season. Then another week, I'm listening to Cesar Maniago, who played in the 60s and 70s. I mean, where do you get that kind of diverse information? And you can have that much fun with it. It's just a tremendous resource that all goalies should use.
So I'm going to get back to where I was going with it. Was Woody Hodgson, and they started talking about the goalie's performance after Four Nations. Do you know that the best goalies after Four Nations have been the backups? The backups, the NHL backups since Four Nations have crushed it.
Really?
Isn't that fascinating?
That surprised me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening and I was wow. And like Joey, my son, Joey Decor, like he's played a lot of games. I think in the last 3 months of the season, he played more games than anybody in the NHL, and his numbers, they dropped off a little bit here at the end. And it makes you think about the workload. And they had an interesting stat. It was games per week next year are going to go from 3.3 on average to 3.5 because of the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know what that tells me, John? You better have 2 goalies next year.
Well, it's funny. This is point 4. When you asked me to think of some things, I noticed the importance of secondary goaltending.
Yeah.
I know, what was it, last season, especially the season before, teams are going to their 3rd goalies in the playoffs. And there wasn't a lot of drop off. Like I can't think of the goalie from Vancouver last year, Silos.
Yep.
He came in out of nowhere and took them deeper in the playoffs than they thought they could. A couple of years ago, Pittsburgh's playing the Rangers, and both goalies go down. And it just you got to have some depth with your goaltending, which brings me to another point I was talking about. Teams are now investing in a goalie department. They're seeing the value of goaltending, not just at their NHL level, but how they have to create a depth chart, how they have to develop these goaltenders to get to the next level. That way, if something catastrophic does happen, they've got goalies in the system, and that wasn't done 5-10 years ago. They're now seeing the value of the goaltenders
and the value of your lists, making sure your UFA list is up to date and you're ready to go. Make sure that at any time when you have a chance to make a move for a goaltender, or a goaltender hits the waiver wire, that you know exactly what that goalie is and whether that's someone that might help your organization. And look at Vancouver. Look at Colorado. They changed their 2 goalies.
2 goalies.
Mid-season.
I've never seen that in a season. I've never seen that before.
And it worked.
Yeah.
They got better because of it.
It's just another thing I noted is how important the stats are, not just the game stats, but what you were just saying. A goalie becomes available. Does he fit into us money-wise? Does he fit into our depth chart? Does he fit into us contract-wise? Is he on a short-term? Is he a longer-term deal? Does he fit the system we play? Like everybody's got a slightly different system, and you can go and look and what his stats are from where certain shots are. And that's another thing that's just, every time you look, there's a new stat coming up and you're thinking, oh, maybe this is too much. But when you look more at the stat, you're seeing how much information that the particular stat gives, and then how much general information's out there when you're looking at a goaltender.
There's so much work to be done. I go back to, when I was with Arizona and we went out and got veggie. Like it literally took everybody from the regional scout that saw him and reached out to me to, Clay Adams and Magnus Olsson and Zach Burke signing off on him, and then Stabby signing off on him. And, it took everybody, and then, figuring out, okay, what would his contract be? And it just took a team effort to get it done. It took a whole department. And then we ended up signing him. Didn't cost us a draft pick. And, Veggie went in there, and Vemelka went in there and won a job his first year. And then just signed again. That's what you need to do. That's what a goalie department brings.
But that goes back to what you're saying is they're leaving no stone unturned. They're finding goalies from every area of the world now. Yeah. And there's so much networking that you can contact somebody in Europe and say, hey, have you seen this player play? How does this game translate to our level of hockey or our style of hockey? There's video available. There's so much available that every goalie is going to get noticed at some point or has a contact to reach somebody to get them noticed. That's another amazing thing, that there's so much information out there on goaltenders, and it's being shared too.
How about technique wise? Are you seeing more goalies staying on their feet, getting there holding their edges? Are you seeing more goalies? What are you seeing from watching all these games the last couple of years?
It's funny. The first thing I looked with the technical side I had written down was with the edge work. How important the edge work is. I'm seeing goalies staying on their feet longer than I ever have.
Yeah.
Sometimes like in tight, you wouldn't think a goalie would get up, and they're getting back up because they find they have much more a stronger lateral push than sometimes from just being in a butterfly. You've seen the edge work. I've seen a lot of difference in the post play. The Panda was just starting to come in about 2 years ago. I see that now as a regular move.
Oh my God. I can't
80% of
believe how much I
goaltenders.
see it now. Yeah. It's, to me, it's actually gone past. Like, I think it's like, okay, so it was new and then only a few guys did it. And then all of a sudden, okay, I think more and more people see the value of it and are using it more. And I think it's going to be dialed back until it finds the sweet spot of everybody recognizes when to use it and when not to use it.
Yeah, the drawback I've seen to that is if a goalie's dropping a little bit early and the shooter recognizes it, if they're on the forehand, it's an easy wraparound. So
I don't agree with that at all.
No?
No. I think that it looks like an easier wraparound. I think that on a wraparound, the majority of the time the puck goes in is because the puck goes off the back of the goalie's skate and in, and it's because the angle that the skate is taken. When you're coming from a panda, if you're flat, you plant and push, your pad's coming from inside the net to out. So therefore the option, which isn't an option, they don't do it. They're trying to tuck it in. They just can't get it around. But therefore, that chance of it hitting the skate and going in and banking in is out the window because the pad's going out. So therefore, you don't get all those goals from the puck being banked off the back of the goalie's skate. You get goals. They have to literally beat you to that post, which is hard to do when you're that flat.
Interesting. I'll have to look for that more when I'm watching the game, especially the
Well,
players.
that's what I'm here for, John, to help educate you.
Appreciate that.
You know, it's our listeners and you. That's what I'm doing here.
Appreciate that.
And then do you find, like, you know, in terms of newer techniques, like the double seal, that people say the double seal is one of the reasons why Demko's having so much issue with the hips and you know, being low and just having your foot on both posts, which you would think only the big guys can do, but some of the smaller goalies are just as good doing it as the big goalies. But do you see techniques like that creeping in the game that are different? The blind plug.
Well, it's funny. We noticed a blind plug about 2 years ago, and we thought first time I saw him, like, oh, this goalie just lost an edge, or he fell into it, and he just happened to hit his post by act. I didn't realize that this is a planned move, and you see it more and more. That the big thing I'm seeing is goalies trying to find the puck in all areas, especially down lower behind the net. They're doing anything they can to find the puck. And that's a great way the blind plug came in. I'm seeing a lot of goalies in an RVH, but they're on the opposite post when the puck is on, say they're on their blocker side post in RVH, the puck's on the glove side. And they're just reading the play, waiting for it to develop, knowing that all they have to do is move one to one area. As opposed to used to see years ago, the goalie's just moving back and forth. And they never really looked like they had a sight line in the puck. So you're seeing more. It's funny. It's a combination. You're seeing them be more patient, yet anticipating quicker than they ever have. It's amazing the mental game. There's so much more that these goalies have to process because the shooters are holding on the puck more. They're creating better passing and shooting lanes than they ever have. I just find the mental abilities of these goaltenders, like when you break a play down, again, going back to in-goal, when they break down those reading of plays, the pro reads.
Yeah, the pro reads, yeah.
For one play, they're going into an in-depth conversation. You're going, I would not have seen that if he didn't explain what he saw and what he was processing. So there's so much information for these goalies to process. And I think they're doing a great job. I mean, the game is so quick now, but I think the goaltending is very, very good.
So it's so funny. I'm going to pull at that thread a little bit, the processing. So we're knee deep in revising our 8-pillar program, which is a staple of our lessons that we do here at Stop It Goaltending. And what we keep on going back to with our discussions is the predictability versus variability and developing. And, you know, when you're listening to those pro reads, the comment you just made, and the technique is one thing. The ability to read the play and understand when to use what, how to apply it is key. So, we've really broken it down to acquisition, application, and aptitude. Okay, so acquisition is acquiring the skill. Application is applying the skill. Aptitude is problem solving. And at the end of the day, you can be lacking a little bit in the skill department. You could be lacking a little bit in the application department. You have to be good at aptitude. You have to be good at problem solving.
It's funny. I years ago, I never would have agreed with you. I would have always said technique would be the most important thing. But there was a term I heard that I was reading a book. It said, figure it out ability.
Figure out ability. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you need when you don't have predictability. You got to have a figure it out ability. And you see the good goalies, they can make that one extra save in a game because they got figure it out ability. They just figured out a way to make the save. It's not textbook. You might not be able to teach it. It's might be what they can do that another goalie can't, but they've figured out how to just make that one extra save. And with the way the game's going today, it's such a high scoring game. It could be a difference between a 5-4 win or a 5-4 loss. So that one extra save is so important.
So, while you were talking, I was picturing a drill where a goalie's moving from point A to point B, and they're halfway there and the shooter shoots. And the shooter doesn't wait for them to get to their spot. The shooter shoots early. And the goalie's mad because the shooter shot early and he didn't get his spot to perform the save. And I'm like, that's goaltending. That's what, don't get mad at the shooter. Say thank you, because that's what you're going to see in the game.
I agree, and it's funny that was brought up to me by one of our shooters during one of our lessons in clinics. They were saying, love being here, love the work that you get to do, but they said we don't wait for goalies to get in position. We just shoot when we see an open spot, and it was one of those like, the game's changing. They're not just skating down a lane like they used to and trying to blow a shot by a goalie. They're trying to get the goaltender moving, so they're creating openings. So it was one of those, good comment by the shooter. So,
what we've been working on is just like we're looking at every drill and we're going, okay, how much do we need to develop the skill, the ability to perform a task, right? And then how do you create a drill that you can practice performing that task? And then how do you create a drill to teach when to use that? That's the trick right there.
I think it's important. That's one of the things we discussed in the last couple of months is creating that type of a lesson plan, a game plan where we can give the goalie all of it, because that's the way the game's evolved.
It is.
And I could definitely see it in my last 2 years with all the hockey I watched that. Yeah, there's certain things that are predictable, but the game, there's so many nuances in the game now. I mean, what I've noticed too, another thing, the shooters have gotten really good. They're really good at disguising the shot now. They can pull that puck 2 or 3 inches.
And disguising passes, John.
Yep.
The body. And once again, as a goalie, you may only see a glimpse.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, the shoulders, hips, everything's staying like they're skating. And then all of a sudden, the hands cross. Yep. And it's like, whoa. Then they hit that guy over there. I was like, nothing in their body showed you that they didn't look, they didn't turn, but the hands went, crossover, pass. It's like, oh boy, now I'm late.
Agree. Like they're not predictable anymore.
Yeah.
You used to be able to see a guy go to a certain area and say, this is definitely going to be a pass. There's no way he's going to take a shot from this area or the other way around. Oh, this is a pure shooting area. He's definitely going to shoot. And all of a sudden, 2 passes later and the puck's in the back of the net. And you're like, I didn't even see that play developing. I didn't even realize that guy's coming down the backside. And they're seeing the play better. The forwards are. They're seeing the play better. They're holding on to the puck an extra half a second. They're making that extra pass to create a little bit more opening of the net. Whereas 2, 3, 4 years ago, I remember coaches when I was coaching college saying, I can't believe you didn't take that shot. Take the shot. It was there. And now we're realizing that it's a better option to get the goaltender moving. And now we've got to figure that out too, that we got to adjust our depth. We got to adjust our drifts and how we're moving and how we're setting. Again, the constant evolution of the game. And that's why we have to keep up with it. And that's why we're changing the lessons that we do to reflect that.
And you're starting to see right now in goalie world, the Russians are starting to pull ahead. The Russian goalie is starting to pull ahead. Now, if you look at the Russian goalie, what are they best at? They're best at transition. And that's what the game's turned into. Now, I don't think the Russians have changed anything in terms of the way they train goalies. I think the game has ended up evolving to now what their strength and what they emphasize and their focus now fits exactly what you have to be good at as a goalie. That athleticism, that compete, that, it's not all about skill. It's about finding a way to stop the puck and being a super athlete. And I think they're starting to pull ahead. I don't know if someone sat there 15 years ago and said, well, we've got to do this because this is the way the game's going. But that's what's happened.
It's funny. I got that number 9 on my list of things is Florida is now goalie country. And the goalies are from Russia. I mean, who's more fun to watch than Vasilevsky? And then if you watch the way Bob played the last 2 years in the playoffs, and the one thing that still stands out there is that reverse rotation glove save he made out of nowhere during the playoffs last year. Yeah. That's figure out ability, but that's also his ability to have edges to be able to make a play like that.
And I think as goalies, we have to get out of that thought process of, oh, this drill isn't a goalie drill. Guess what, guys? If the shot's too early, the shot's too late, the shot's got a screen, whatever it is that you don't like, guess what? That's what you need. That's what we need to get better at right now. So welcome that it's not a goalie drill.
Well, it's funny. We were both watching a video earlier this week of a reverse rotation. There was a stick in the middle of the crease, and the goalie had to step over the stick. Yeah. And we've done videos like that as training videos. We put them online. We've always get you're never going to use that in the game. Well, we saw it used in the game. The goalie did a reverse rotation. He saw his stick. He stepped over. He was able to regain his post and make his play. And again, being a better athlete, better edge work, that one moment where you need to catch an edge. And yes. So everything to me is a goalie drill. Everything's a goalie drill because the way the game's changed so much, I've never seen better edge work on goaltenders.
Hey, John, I'm going to ask you a tough question right now.
Sure.
On the Stop It Goaltending app,
okay,
you've got the primers, you've got the quick video, and you've got the full-length video like your goalie IQs, that kind of stuff. And you've done so many playbooks for that. What's your favorite part of the app?
The primer's a good way to literally wake you up in the morning. Like if you're a goalie geek, you throw on the primer for a minute. Like if you're in high school, throw it in while you're sitting in homeroom or something. Me personally, I like the playbook because the way it's broken down, you can watch 5 minutes now, you can watch 5 minutes later in the day. Yeah. It's very informative. What I like about the playbook is it really emphasizes that the goalies aren't the same in the NHL anymore. I mean, I did a bunch of them, and I just remember watching the differences. And I also like, too, that we're getting some of the goalies from the Women's Pro League in there because you can learn a lot from those goaltenders. Like when you watch Erin Frankel play, what an athlete she is. But she's so athletic because she's so good in her skates. Her edges are incredible that allow her to make those moves. Yeah. So I've always enjoyed the goalie playbook because you get to see so many different styles. I also like that our other goalie coaches are doing it as well, so they can show their knowledge and they can show what they know about the position. I love doing them when I was doing them all. I like it when the other coaches are doing it too.
Yeah, I always get something. I always get something watching, and there's always one or two kind of takeaways, and then it gets my mind going. Right, I start thinking about drills. I start thinking about application. How's that going to apply? And even this year, Sebastian Ragnow, goalie coach at Clarkson, and Stop It goalie coach as well, and he did a piece on screens, and he was talking about center net and off center, screens. And I never really looked at it before. And that's now a big part of my teaching at the Bridge program, which is primarily 13 to 15-year-olds. It's a big, like, understanding when to be centered and leaning versus when to be off center, right? Yep. So, yeah, but before I watched that, I never would have known, right? You don't know what you don't know. And then, so everybody's got a little bit of a different twist on things, and you can always learn from the coaches.
Well, it's funny. I'm finally back around the office, so I'm seeing, Jess again. I'm seeing Jeremy again. I'm seeing Pat again, and they're saying some goalie terms. I'm like, could you explain that to me? Is that a new term we're using? Is that a new move we're using? And I'm just so impressed with the amount of goalie knowledge that we have within our company, and then you expand that to the amount of goalie knowledge that's out there now, and you can't get bored with this position because there's always something to learn. There's always something to learn.
And there's always, there's always point counterpoint. There's always, hey, I want to go in RVH there. No, hey, I want to go in overlap there. Hey, I want to go in a panda. There's always a discussion, and there's strengths and weaknesses. And the real cool thing is that there are techniques that work for some goalies and they don't work for others.
And I think that's the best part. If you're a coach and you're a good, concerned coach with developing your goaltender, you find out what works for him. You don't say you just do this at all times, because it might not work for that goaltender. So you figure out, okay, I have goalie A on my team. This might work for him. Goalie B is going to have to do this because both goalies are going to play during the season. So you got to cater and make both of the goaltenders better. And that's what I think is fun about goalie coaching, making all the goalies you coach better.
Absolutely. Hey, John, we got to wrap it up. It's great to see you again. It's great to have you back in the office and get going. I can't wait. We're gonna get these every Friday again, and we're gonna film these and get these out there, and we're gonna have some guests, and we're gonna bring some of our friends, our goalie coach friends on the podcast. So I'm excited to get these. Remember we used to do these? They were so much fun.
I'm glad to be back, and it's glad to be doing goalie talk again. Like we're goalie geeks at heart, and to be able to talk goaltending for 20 minutes, a half hour, whatever we do, it's just so much fun to be back at it.
Awesome. And if you're new to the podcast, if you're new to Stop It Goaltending You, Stop It Goaltending You is the great, most comprehensive app for goalies, goalie coaches, and goalie parents. There are literally 7 new videos per week that are posted. We're constantly updating it. You'll find it a great resource, and you can get a 7-day free trial at Stop It Goaltending You, and it's available on both Apple and Google. So I hope you can hop on there and check us out there. And thank you very much for joining us, and I can't wait to see you again next week.
Thanks, Dak. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed the Goalie Podcast by Stop It Goaltending You. If you haven't already downloaded the Stop It Goaltending You app, you can get your free 7-day trial at either the App Store or Google Play.